Yeah, and we need the less powerful. We need this.
We need a bigger one, but you need a full size.
Oh, look, there is a full. There's like a thing that you can do too.
It might have been on the bag or something. It's 10 to 7.
Thank you. Thank you. Rachel, Amar, testing. Let me know how this is happening. Testing. 1, 2, 3. Testing. 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 Can you understand what I'm saying? Picking up everyone else's noises. I think that's it. All right, testing. Is that a little? Well, maybe people will be quiet on the program here. All right. Okay, good. Okay, yeah, also on YouTube. Okay. All right, welcome everyone. My name is Efraim Katzir. I'm the director of Sephardic Heritage International in DC, or SHIN DC. And I'd just like to welcome everyone again, excellencies, members of Congress, all our friends who are here. So thank you for joining the Iraqi Jewish community, members of Congress, the diplomatic community. This is a moment I seem to check something here. Make sure it's working. Sorry about that. Okay. All right. Thank you for joining the Iraqi Jewish community, members of Congress, the diplomatic community, and the wider Sephardic Heritage International community for SHIN DC's second Congressional Farhud and October 7th Remembrance. We hold this program in memory of Shlomo Mantzur, Allah Shalom, peace be upon him, born in Baghdad in 1938 when the city was about 1/3 Jewish. Young Shlomo Mantzur escaped the Farhud and later moved to Israel. Tragically, on October 7th, 2023, Hamas terrorists seized him from his home at Kibbutz Kizufim on the Gaza border and killed him. We have a hybrid audience today, so we are not only the person on the field, but also connecting with participants all over the U.S. and around the world. This annual commemoration serves to reinforce our memory of the Farhud and its lamented victims, as well as to acknowledge over 2,600 years of Iraqi Jewish life. The Farhud was an outbreak of antisemitic mob violence against Baghdad Jewry that erupted on June 1st, 1941 during the Shavuot Jewish holiday. This commemoration also provides an opportunity to remember the victims of October 7th in Israel and to take a stand against antisemitism and terror, which are at the root of both tragedies. Special gratitude goes to our community partners, Kasher Israel Congregation, the Georgetown Synagogue and Haif Association of Jews from the MENA in the UK. So one thing I've learned from this is not being a program because it will follow that way. And so the order of things have changed a bit. And so to begin with, now we welcome Rabbi Master Yehuda Kaplan, U.S. Special Envoy to the Combat Antisemitism, to share his remarks. Thank you. Something that's become all too often a Jewish ritual is to remember people killed by violent acts throughout the globe. We talk about the massacres in Rayburn in 1929. We talk about the Farhud in 1941. We talk about October 7th. We talk about the children from Malot. Our history is made with all too often too many sacrifices. Remember today, not the over 100 number 100 or over 100 Jews were killed in the pogroms. But we need to remember how they lived, what they stood for, and what was important to them, and how they died, simply because they were Jewish. This was not during the Nazi Holocaust. This was a different country. But yet the Holocaust and the Nazis influenced a group of people that massacred our brave brothers and sisters. We speak about Shlomo Mantzur, who died on October 7th after surviving. October 7th is a wake-up call for all of us. I think we could probably go around the moon and everybody would want something that wants someone to sacrifice someone on October 7th. Those of you who recognize from my last name, on October 7th, he was the heroes at a mother of two young boys, a 4-year-old and a 6-month-old, who was brutally killed on October 7th. Iraq, 2,600 years of Jewish history, and yet it went out with a whimper. My father has a hobby of collecting old Judaic hors. And there's a book that he has that's literally pocket-sized, 700, it was written 700 years ago, about a scholar who was in Egypt and decided he wanted to know about the Jewish community. So he traveled, imagine 700 years ago, he traveled from Egypt to Turkey to Jerusalem, then Safed, then Lebanon, then Syria, Iraq, and India. And he writes about his journeys in the different customs. But when he writes about Iraq, he writes about the scholarship, the flowing, the beauty of the Jewish communities in those areas. And yet today there's no memory, or very little memory, of what occurred. So how do you honor memories and the Zachor to remember? The obligation of every Jew is to remember those who died simply because they're Jewish, no matter who they are, where they are, or what their affiliations were. Hitler didn't make distinctions, and those people who were doing the pogroms didn't make any distinctions. They saw a Jew and they went to kill him. That's it. Guilty for being Jewish. And the responsibility for us is to remember them because they were killed for being Jewish. To learn from their past and their futures and live the lives that they were unable to live by educating others to not hate and to be better human beings. That's incumbent and responsibility for all of us. I'm privileged to work at the State Department in an office that I truly wish didn't exist. For those of you who know, at my Senate hearing, I said I'm actually auditioning for a job that I wish never had to exist. It's an indictment on humanity that we have to have an ambassador like that global anti-Semitism. But I'm privileged to work for an administration that both the President and the Secretary have made it very, very clear that anti-Semitism is not going to be tolerated anywhere, anytime, any place, and to the best of our abilities. We are going to work to eradicate the hatred, to protect the Jewish community, and we must protect the legacy of those Jews who were killed in Iraq. And remember that 125,000 Jews immigrated between 1948 and 1955 because the country was no longer viable. for the Jewish community. We have to make certain that these things do not happen again anywhere, anytime, any place. And that is truly the legacy that we can give to those victims of the Farhud massacre. Thank you. Thank you, Rabbi Mantzur, the Captain. We invite you to light a candle for the victims of the Farhud and of October 7th. Rabbi Mantzur, thank you for the crucial work you do worldwide to make it safer for Jews, for all of humanity, for civilization. We now welcome His Excellency Mark Sears, former U.S. Ambassador to the Sultanate of Oman, to speak. His wife, Farhud Iraqi, is an Iraqi-born Jewish scholar and a longtime advocate for Arab-Jewish dialogue in the Middle East. Ambassador Sears has also served the U.S. Department of State across the Middle East and North Africa, as well as in Turkey, including postings in Egypt, Iraq, Israel, Morocco, and Saudi Arabia. Ambassador Sears.
Good evening. It's great to be here. I arrived. My wife and I live in Abu Dhabi, and I'm very happy to say this is our son, Sam, who is here with me today. She's not. She's in Abu Dhabi. But we've been there for several years now, and I work for the American Jewish Committee there, and now I'm on my own and my wife promoting dialogue and understanding, and I believe it really is something that's real there. We would like to see something similar someday in Iraq. As a State Department officer, I served twice in Iraq. 2004, when I met my wife, who had come back from a comfortable life in New Jersey to volunteer to help with the rebuild, what we thought was the rebuilding of the new Iraq in 2004. And I was there again with the U.S. Embassy in 2010 to 11 when we tried to put together a inclusive Iraqi coalition that would represent all of Iraq's major factions and religious communities. It didn't work. But I think the opportunities are not gone, and I think it's very important to think about what might be in Iraq. My wife asked me to mention the upcoming visit of the Iraqi Prime Minister, Zaidi, to Washington next month. She hopes that this is an opportunity for the Trump administration to convey how important it is to restore some of the diversity of Iraq's social fabric that is inherent, especially in the absence of the Jewish people. Jews were an integral part of Iraqi culture, Iraqi society for millennia. Jews were there long, long before the Arabs, and long, long before Islam. And now they're gone. But not only are they gone, their properties and their community centers and their synagogues and the homes that they owned were all taken away from them by the Iraqi government. And at this point, according to Iraqi law, current Iraqi law, after we liberated Iraq from Saddam Hussein, the Iraqi legislature passed legislation according to which every Iraqi emigrate who had property in Iraq is entitled to come and receive property back, be compensated for it, with the exception of Jews. And Jews alone are not allowed to regain their Iraqi citizenship, which they would need to do to regain their property. And this is a travesty. So I wanted to, on behalf of my wife, I'm very happy to have the chance to make that point. Her mother was a survivor of the Farhud as a little girl, not in Baghdad, but in Basra. Farhud was also in Basra, but was primarily in Baghdad. And she and her mother were saved by a Muslim neighbor. There are good people everywhere, along with lots of bad people. But it's very important to remember that there is an Iraqi heritage and a Jewish heritage in Iraq that should not be lost and should not be allowed to disappear. And I actually had the privilege of visiting the kibbutz that Shlomo Mantzur was kidnapped from. They took us to his house, what's left of his house. I don't know if it's torn down now, but last year when I was there, it was still there in ruins. And just the thought that this man had been through what he went through in 1941 as a little boy, and then to end that way, end his life that way, is overwhelming. But I want to be positive, so let's try to advocate and promote for Iraqi Jewish heritage and for the rights of Iraqi Jews to regain their property. I think that's a very important thing, and maybe this administration can do something about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador Seavers. We invite you to light a candle for you and Sam to light a candle for the victims of the Farhud on October 7th. Thank you for your service in several of the Middle East's most complex and challenging posts and for continuing to promote U.S. interests. We now welcome Congresswoman Debbie Monson-Schultz to the podium to share her remarks.
Thank you so much, friend. Thank you again, DC, for once again bringing us together in this sacred space for memory and solidarity and action. It's truly an honor to join the Iraqi American Jewish Community, the Israeli American Community, and all of you to commemorate the victims of the Farhud and the victims of October 7th, 2023. Tonight we remember not only a tragedy, but a civilization. For more than 2,600 years, Iraqi Jews helped shape the culture, commerce, and spirit of Iraq. They were poets and merchants and teachers and public servants and neighbors and citizens. And yet on June 1st, 1941, during the holy holiday of Shavuot, that ancient community was shattered by antisemitic mob violence in Baghdad. The Farhud was more than a pogrom. It showed how quickly hatred, incitement, and Nazi ideology could turn neighbors into targets, homes into ruins, and a thriving Jewish community into a community marked by trauma and exile. For too long, that history was treated as a footnote, but not tonight. Tonight we remember the victims, we honor the survivors, and we reaffirm that the story of Iraqi Jews and all Jews forced into exile must be told fully, proudly, and truthfully. That is why last year I sponsored a resolution to federally recognize Yom Kippur Jewish Refugee Day. This holiday marks the forced exile of nearly 900,000 Jews from Arab and Muslim majority countries, including Iraq, in the years surrounding World War II and the founding of the State of Israel. They lost homes, property, citizenship, and communities built over millennia. But they did not lose their identity. They did not lose their faith, and they did not lose their capacity to rebuild. Many found refuge in Israel, where they became an indispensable part of the fabric of the Jewish homeland. Others came to the United States and helped enrich our own communities, including in South Florida, where I'm proud to represent a vibrant and diverse Jewish community. Tonight, we also honor the life of Shlomo Mantzur. Shlomo survived the Farhud as a child, built a life in Israel, and then 82 years later faced another pogrom against the Jewish people on October 7th. His life is a meaningful bridge between past and present. It reminds us that antisemitism is not ancient history. The reality is it's the oldest ism. It is a living danger that must be confronted wherever it appears, whether it's Baghdad in 1941, in Israel on October 7th, or here in the United States today. Thank you. Thank you. But memory is not only about learning. Memory is a form of resistance. When we tell the story of the Farhud, we prevent erasure. When we teach the history of Sephardic and Iraqi Jews, we resist ignorance. When we stand together against antisemitism and terror, we resist the fear that those who hate us seek to impose. As a member of Congress, I will continue fighting for stronger protections for Jewish institutions, greater recognition of underrepresented Jewish histories, and action to confront antisemitism in all its forms. Thank you to all of those who carry the memory of Farhud and the memories of all of those who lost me for a blessing. And thank you again for having me once again this year.
Thank you, Congresswoman Debbie Bonsman Schultz. We plan to light a candle for the victims of the Farhud on October 7th. We're grateful to the Congresswoman for having sponsored a bipartisan congressional resolution recognizing November 30th as Yom Iraqi Jewish Refugee Day, honoring the approximately 900,000 Jews who were displaced, expelled, or forced to flee Arab countries and North Africa after the establishment of Israel. We hope it gets a vote and is passed. And thank you again. Let's see what's next on our program.
Solving the world's problems. How are you doing?
We now welcome Congressman Eric Van Worken to share his remarks.
Okay. Sorry. Sorry, I was doing Congress things, and Congress really interferes with my social life. I served 26 years in the United States military, the longest serving enlisted member of the military of Congress history. And I was a retired SEAL. I fought on several different conflicts. I was in every conflict from the first Gulf War. I didn't make it to Syria, but I was involved in war. When you go to war, your country tells you where to go to war. I think that's a very good policy. Otherwise, you get elected up in Congress. When I retired, I made an oath. An oath between me, the Jewish people, and God. I go back to church. My wife is Christian. I made that oath. And what it was something like October 2nd. This was 2014. I didn't tell anybody about it. I told my wife, because you know, God was Jewish. When October 7th happened, my oath was I'd go help defend Jews. Because the King James Bible, I have to agree. I believe it. My Bible says Jews are God's chosen. And I know that can be very hard to say sometimes. It is. But all, you know, the entire history, recorded history of man, Jews and diversity. So October 7th happened. And Kevin McCarthy's speakership was vacated. And I went to Kevin and I said, I need to leave the country now. He's like, I'm going to stay with him. I told him about this oath. So I understand. I told him, like, wife finally, she's like, what is your problem? You've been in combat, just in combat for 2 decades, essentially. And I never got shot. I got shot in the face with a ricochet in training. Like, I didn't get 10 all in for it. It's kind of right here. You can't see it. But I told my wife about this oath that I made. And my wife said, why are you still here? Because she's a United States Navy SEAL team wife, and she got it. So that speakership thing went on. I called Sarah Jane. Since whatever, I almost happened. So I told Steve, Scalise, Melissa Fine, Tom Hammer, Tim McCarthy, Patrick Henry, and I. All right, we don't have a speaker yet. But I made an oath between myself, Jewish people, and God, and you're not part of that. We should get your house in order. I'm out. So I left. The only member of Congress in this country to miss the oath of speakership because that's all we do. That's a good stat. I went to all the places that they don't let you go anymore. And went to the very now, you know, the Music Festival is essentially a shrine. donated blood because I was so combat medic. You need blood. So a teacher was donating blood there. Looking out the shadow. When I was at the Nova Music Festival grounds, there was still detritus of the world was there. There was tens of men around the cars and you've seen the pictures. There's a circle of red coolers, right, and the bandstand was back here. Well, those are all still there. And there was a series of these plastic cups. And so I was with Minister Amici on that came and I take some of these back. And he said, of course. So here's it's more public now than it was, and I was not going to write for election because I despise politics. I hate it. I love policy, I despise politics. So I was not running for a second term. I came back with these cups. And I freeze-framed one of the videos that I made and showed this cups in the dirt. And compared that to a poster where my friend, your friend, Rich McCall, wrote a piece of legislation to censure Jews from being anti-Semitic. There's no place for anti-Semitism in Congress. No more be able to wear a white hood on your head on that for being anti-Semitic. And I put them in the same camp. So Rich wrote this legislation, I freeze-framed this thing, and I wrote a letter to every member of the squad. And essentially what I said, I'm not afraid of the game, but no way, I'm afraid of no man. I'm terrified of God, as you should be too, because he is all powerful and the creator of everything you see. This letter essentially said, this is in close to cop. And I had one for my first speech. And essentially he said this cup is a physical reminder of a child they'll never be able to dance with a child because they'll never catch up with her because they'll learn the nice images. And I feel very good. I got no thank you for her. So I went through that on the House floor, screaming my Democratic colleague for being anti-Semitic. She has a very list of that. She had one of these cups already, right? That is the moment that I decided to run for the election. Because I realized the only place in the entire world where I have the ability at such a level, at scale, to resound and condemn not just anti-Semitism, but anti-Semitic to the face of being a member of Congress. That's why I'm still here. So you have a friend.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Either do what you say you believe in, or you don't believe it, do you? And go around and speak. So I was the first member of the United States government to go to Israel. And I paid for it myself. I left. I was not impressed with it. And when people found out that I was an American, they were ecstatic. When they found out I was going to go to Congress, they said, so I'm not going anywhere. I will be with you from the beginning to the end, so the river from the sea never happens. So God bless you.
Thank you, Congressman Van Orden. I invite you to light a candle for the victims of the Farhud October 7th. Thank you for your service, and thank you for your continued service here in Congress. And thank you for being a staunch ally in the fight against antisemitism and terror. One moment, let's set up something. In the meantime, we're welcome Congressional Farhud Commemoration Chair and Washington, D.C. Board Member Maurice Shavuot to speak. Maurice was born and raised in Iraq, and he also represents the World Organization of Jews from Iraq.
As mentioned earlier, our talk is focused on the Farhud, which was the killing and looting of Jews in Iraq that took place on the Jewish holidays of Shavuot in 1941. What's the source of the word Farhud? It's not an Arabic word. From what I read, it seems like Turkish soldiers during World War I, when Iraq was under the Ottoman Empire, didn't get their salaries or food at a certain point in time as usual during that period. So they used to loot stores. And apparently, I'm not familiar with the Turkish language, apparently the Farhud source is from there, and it came to be known later on, probably because of the situations of Iran in 1941, as violent dispossession or pogrom. The seeds of hatred against the Jews were planted in the 30s of the 20th century, when the people of the Mufti of Jerusalem, Haji and Hitler emissaries in Baghdad, among them the German envoy, Dr. Fritz Nova, were spreading chauvinism linked to antisemitism. Those steps inflamed militaristic sentiments among leaders and army commanders in Iraq. On April 1st, 1941, exactly 2 months before the Farhud, a military coup was carried out by 4 military officers, nicknamed the Golden Square. They brought the pro-Nazi leader, Rashid Ali Gaylani, into power, while the regent Abdelillah, the ex-prime minister, Nouri Said, and other supporters of the Allies escaped from Baghdad. At the beginning of May that year, the pro-Nazi regime declared war on Britain, which lasted until its overthrow at the end of that month. During that period, there were numerous provocations and incitements against Jews. In the first week of May, the Jewish director of the railway station in Baghdad was murdered. A mob killed 1 and wounded 4 residents of a Jewish home who were accused of signaling to British airplanes. On May 22nd, a Jewish merchant was murdered in the town of Shavuot on the Euphrates. The most serious incident during that month occurred in the northern village of Sandur, when 10 Jews were killed by a mob. This eruption of hostility against the Jews happened despite the fact that Rashid Ali revolt had been suppressed and the regent had in the meantime returned the British forces to Baghdad. Following the failure of their coup, Prime Minister al-Gaylani, the Mufti of Jerusalem, and other leaders of the uprising fled across the Iranian border and from there to Nazi Germany. On the eve of the Jewish holidays of Shavuot, a tense calm reigned in Baghdad. Jews filled the synagogues, where they were warned not to congregate in the streets, lest expressions of joy over the suppression of the pro-Nazi coup caused reactions among some of the population. According to the numerous testimonies on the first day of the holiday, June 1st, 1941, citizens came out to greet the regent Abdullah, who was returning from exile. Among them were well-dressed Jews in a festive mood, in a scuffle which broke out between Jews and local mobs. 17 Jews were injured, 2 of them died later. At that time, the British Army, which had put down the pro-Nazi rebel, was encamped behind the ridge, but did interfere in the scuffle. As Jews left their homes in the afternoon to visit relatives, they were attacked by members of youth squads, soldiers from defeated army units, and hot-headed students. In certain areas, Jewish passengers were pulled out of public buses and slain. As the news of the incidents spread, Jews fled to their homes. Those who did not flee in time were murdered. When no more Jews were found in the streets, the rioters began attacking homes. By 7 o'clock that night, the riots had spread all over Baghdad. Among the rioters were policemen. Army and police officers were seen directing rioters to places suitable for looting and killing. Jewish shops and homes appear to have been marked in advance to facilitate the looting. Soldiers fired machine guns at Jews who were trying to escape by jumping from one roof to another. Into the night, the screams of the assaulted families could be heard, followed by silence after the victims were murdered. The next morning, the riots resumed on an even wider scale. Among the rioters were students and villagers who arrived from the city of Baghdad to participate in the Farhud. The attackers were armed with clubs, axes, and knives, supplemented by the weapons of the security officers. Stories were told of rape, mutilation, massacres of women and children. All men were slaughtered as they were praying. Many synagogues were desecrated and one of them was looted. Fires were raging throughout the night. It should be noted that there were Muslims who protected their Jewish acquaintances and even risked their lives in doing so. My mother's family, my mother was single at the time, was one of those who were protected. My grandmother asked the neighbors after that she saw that they marked their house with the hand 5 in red. They marked all the Jews in that street. So my grandmother knew something is happening. She asked a neighbor if he can protect them. he agreed, and not only that, he brought his own security people to protect my mothers and her family, brothers, they were large family. When the attackers came, someone in the street marked, he said, this family moved to this house. So they came to attack the house where my mother's family were there. Luckily, the security people that the owner put started to shoot in the air in order to scare the attackers, and they were successful. The attackers left, and my mother's family stayed there for another 2 days. Related to this story, in 2009, I met someone Iraqi at the National Defense University, and after we introduced ourselves to each other, he told me his name, Asad Barak. I asked him, are you related to Salman al-Barak? He said, yes, he's my grandfather. I said, Salman Barak saved my mother's family during the Farhud. What a small world that after 67, 68 years, that I would meet someone. He was so happy. He hugged me, he immediately called aunts and relatives to tell them our story. I will continue with the story of the Farhud. At noon of the second day of Jewish holidays of Shavuot, the radio announced that the army had entered Baghdad with orders to shoot riders. Mostly Kurdish soldiers who had pledged allegiance to the regime marched into the city. Shots were heard and riders were removed from the streets. There were reports of scores of dead among them. A curfew was imposed on the city from 5 in the evening until 7 in the morning. The next day, the Jewish residents of Baghdad left their homes in search of relatives, while victims were still being removed. The mayor apologized to a delegation of the Jewish community. Nobody knows exactly the number of casualties. The most common reports mention the number of deaths during the 2 days of the Jewish holidays was 179. The number of wounded between 850 and 2018, and 242 children orphaned. The government of Japan, which had been formed following the pogrom, expressed its regret, but otherwise failed to act firmly against the perpetrators, nor did it adequately compensate the victims. Nevertheless, it took certain measures to reassure the whole Jewish community. Minister Yunus Salawi, the man who masterminded the carnage and headed the bands of attackers, was sentenced to death and hanged in public. 2 more organizers of the violence were hanged there, and the 4 Golden Square officers who had carried out the coup d'etat were executed in a military camp. The Palestinian Mufti Haji Hussein and ex-Iraqi Prime Minister Shlomo Mantzur, who both fled the country, were tried in absentia and sentenced to death. But, both of them were welcomed. They fled to Berlin and were received by German leader Adolf Hitler. It is important to mention that Baghdad was the early base for Nazi intelligence operation during World War II. They stayed in Germany until 1944 was leaders in charge of the Farhud, and then they went to the Middle East to our countries. Both of them stayed in Lebanon. If I am not mistaken, one of them, died in 1965 in Rayburn, and the Mufti of Jerusalem died in 1974, also in Beirut. If I may mention massacre, and his wife, one of the Singers, is the daughter also of an Iraqi Jew who was executed in Iraq in 1969. During that time, Ba'ath parties ruled. About 50 Jews disappeared, kidnapped, executed in public, or killed. I remember very well, it was about 6 o'clock on August 25th, 1969, when we heard in the radio that 2 Jews were executed because they were quote spies for Israel, among the Chatzker Yaakov, who is the father-in-law of the ambassador. Finally, we should note that one of the people who was a native of Baghdad and survived from whose pogrom was mentioned earlier in 1941, moved to Israel at the age of 13. His name was Shlomo Mantzur, and he was among the founders of EST, a kibbutz located in the southern district of Israel, adjacent to Gaza Strip. During October 7, 2023, Hamas attack on Israel. Hamas militants from Gaza Strip targeted Kisufi, brutally murdered Mantzur that day and took his body captive to Gaza. He was 85 when he was killed and was all this time hostage in Gaza. His body was held for nearly 16 months before finally being returned to Israel in late February 2025 as part of the hostage prisoner swap. Next Thursday, July 2nd, will mark 1,000 days since Hamas broke a ceasefire, invaded Israeli communities with thousands of bloodthirsty terrorists, and massacred 1,200 people. May their memory and all those who died to bring the Ba'ath party to the Farhud be of a blessing. Thank you.
Thank you, Maurice. We invite you to, and your wife, and to light a candle for the victims of the Farhud on October 7th. We will now share a message from Dalia Pogana, the cousin of Shlomo Mantzur.
My name is Dalia Pogana. I am Shlomo Mantzur's cousin. I'm speaking about him as a cousin, but for me, he was like a big brother. The reason that he was a big brother for me is because my mother raised him in Iraq. When Shlomo was born in Iraq, and as a little child, my mother was his very young aunt, and he was his favorite nephew. Shlomo Mantzur survived the Holocaust in Iraq. It was the Farhud Holocaust of the Jewish community in Iraq. It was a period of terror fear and violence. Many people were killed, women were raped, children were killed, and it was a very terrible period for the Jewish people of Iraq. Shlomo survived this period, but unfortunately he didn't survive the second Holocaust in Israel on October 7th. It was the second Holocaust that he faced here, and unfortunately he didn't survive. It was a terroristic. They kidnapped Hamas terrorists, kidnapped him from his house. And since then, there is a big gap in our life, in the family life, and we couldn't overcome it. And Shlomo was a very good person, a man that has a big heart, gold heart. He reached his hand for everybody who needed help. He was a good husband for his wife, and good father and good grandfather. Since then, we try to remember him in every occasion. But I would like to thank you on behalf of Mantzur family and on behalf of all the family of the hostages that became suddenly one big family and we share the same destiny. Thank you for helping us to remember him forever.
Congressional Farhud Commemoration co-chair Rayburn, who is of Iraqi Jewish heritage, will now share a psalm with us depicted of the Farhud on October 7th.
You can join together. You can see the transliteration in Hebrew, words from Tanakh, and also words that we put together to commemorate this moment. In English together, on the holiday of Shavuot in the year 5691, on the Hebrew calendar in 1941, in the ancient city of Babylon, Baghdad, rioters broke out with a strong hand. The Jewish people were slaughtered, and their women and children were shamefully disgraced. By the rivers of Babylon, there we sat, and we wept, and remembered Zion. אדוני שפתי תפתח ופי יגיד ילתך ידי אלוהה סבתני וכל תשועתי תברם Join me. Do not hide your face from me in the day of distress. Incline your ear to me in the day I call. Answer me speedily. Remember what has befallen us. Look and see our disgrace. ונבנה בתולת ישראל. אם אשכחש ירושלים, תשכח ימיני. זכר צדיקים לברכה. אם רבי וגיון ליבי לפניך. אדוני
Mantzuri, Migoli.
May the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in your sight. Adonai, my rock and my redeemer.
All right, thank you, Rayburn. We would now light candles for all those who perished in the Farhud Iraqi in 1941 and October 7th, 2023 in Israel. As I call the names of honored guests and the memorial candlelighting, for the memorial candlelighting, we ask that you please come up front and light. Gamliel Atlan from the Embassy of Israel, Ido Gabriel Afrach, Heather and Rita Shokar, and thank Rita for the delicious sambusak and the haji bada. Nikki Goldman, Dahlia Meltzer and her family, Richard Fulton, DC board member, whose wife, Orit Fulton's family, is from Iraq. Richard will also share some words on behalf of Orit's family. So Lisa Magnus will also light and share a few words. We also ask any of the Iraqi Jews and their families who have not already come up to do so and light a candle for the victim of Farhud. Max Price and Stephen Goodall from Congresswoman Debbie Wasser in Schultz's office. Yehudi Shemtov also is of Iraqi Jewish heritage. And also Noah Benita from Congresswoman Elise Stefanik's office, Simcha Goritsky from Congressman Jamie Raskin's office, Mariana Keener, Irene Aslan, Mariana Kiner on behalf of the U.S. Holocaust Memorial Museum, Pauline Marquez from the Embassy of Malaysia, Ethan Kaufman. We'd also like to acknowledge Rose Sagar from the Embassy of Bahrain, a member of the Kingdom's Jewish Community who has joined us via the live stream.
Thank you. I'm Richard Fulton, a board member from DC. My wife, Gigi Fulton, born in Israel after her parents came there from Iraq. Her father was from Basra. Father Fred Gigi was from Basra. His wife, who eventually becomes the wife, Rina Ovadia, was from Baghdad. So I speak in remembrance of the Gigi, Suleiman, and the Ovadia families. And as we've heard, although Baghdad was the chief site of Farhud, there also were Jews who were subjected and victimized in Basra as well. It really was an event that drove the entirety of the Iraqi community out of Iraq eventually, with her family coming to Israel in the early 50s and other family members, and following the Israelites to the United States. The sole surviving member of that family today is her uncle, my father-in-law's brother, Latif Gigi, who lives in New York. And he recently, at the age of 97, published a book, My Boyhood in Basra, which he wrote and illustrated. And what's important about this, we've heard it said earlier, that we have to remember not only about the persecution, but how people lived in the cities of Iraq. And this is a remembrance that, again, now in his 90s, he prepared this book, this lovely book, about his memories of being a boy in Basra, and it's full of his drawings and remembrances. So, not in his memory, but happily thinking of him today, let's participate on his behalf and on behalf of the various members of my wife's family in this remembrance. Thank you.
My name is Lisa Magnus. I thank DC for asking us all to light this candle in memory also of Israeli hostages, Jewish and non-Jewish alike, who were mercilessly murdered on October 7th during the ensuing 843 days of horror. The last remains of hostages were only returned on January 26th of this year, 2026. We all know that the Farhud was a violent anti-Jewish pogrom that took place in Baghdad. That pogrom and so many others before and after were acts of violent dispossession carried out against Jewish communities in towns and villages across Europe and the Middle East for centuries. October 7th was a pogrom. It is why my French director and I and my boys produced our film called Pogroms, documentary. As we light these candles also for the victims massacred on October 7th, my family also thanks God for sparing our relative Omer Shem Tov, who was freed after 505 days of excruciating captivity in Gaza. He was starved, beaten, and humiliated, yet he found ways to keep hope alive, including through renewed religious faith, which he joyfully embraced upon his release. His family shared a beautiful photo of his first day home from the hospital, where he put on tefillin and prayed with his father, Malki. My cousin in New York also shared a memory with me today when I told her I'd be here. She was pregnant at the same time as Shelley, Omer's mom. Her son Ariel was born just 3 weeks after Omer, and the boys spent many summer vacations together in Israel. In truth, we all are related to the hostages who survived and to those who perished. May we never forget, may we never be silent, and may we do everything in our power to ensure that such atrocities are never repeated. Amen.
Thank you. Rabbi Brian Shamash will now lead us as we conclude with the memorial prayers for all those who perished in the Farhud in Iraq in 1941 and October 7, 2023 in Israel. Rabbi Brian. And I'd also like to invite Scott Lesetsky from State Department's Cultural Heritage Center to come up and light a candle as well.
Each of us has a voice to call out to God. Each of us has an opportunity to pray in any moment. But most of all, the rabbis teach that when we are in trouble, we can reach out to God. And actually today is a moment of gratitude that we're part of this incredible United States of America in the Congressional building, about to sing Shema Yisrael. So we'll recite that responsively. It's going to be a decorated motif, so do your best to respond with your biggest voices in whatever melody comes to you, or repeat the melody that I sang. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kivod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Shem Kivod Adonai Moshiachna. Adonai Moshiachna. Adonai Hatzlichana. Adonai Hatzlichana. שיר למעלות, אשא עיניי אל ההרים, בעין יבוא עזרי. עזרי בני אדוני, אשא שמיים וארץ. אל ייתן למות רגליך, אל ינום שומריך. הנה לא ינום ולא יישן שומר ישראל. אדוני שומריך, אדוני צילך יד ימיניך. ומעם השמש לא יכך, וירח פניך. אדוני ישמורך מכל רע, ישמור את נפשך. אדוני ישמור צאתך ובואך, וחטא וחלוך. Now I invite anyone who has the strength to rise for our Ashkabah, our memorial prayer.
נגד בני אדם, מה יקח השטן עמים ובני אדם, בצל כנפיך יחסייתו. ולכן בני ישראל שמסרו את נפשם על קידוש השם, ואת הנשים וטף שנשרפו שנהרגו בפרעות בבוש אנו מתפללים בעד הזכרת נשמתם בגן עדן
Please God, watch over all who were killed, who were massacred in the Farhud. Because we pray for the remembrance of their souls, may their resting place be in Gan Eden. Please, Master of Mercy, shelter them in the shelter of your wings forever. May their souls be bound up in the bond of life. Adonai is their portion. May they rest in peace in their angelic places. And let us say, Amen. We join together in Mourner's Kaddish Yatom. V'ifkada shmei ha'am, da'adama tika k'yuteh yamdik ma'uteh, v'yatzmach burkaneh v'kareh mishifeh, v'chayechon v'yumechon v'chayeh l'kol beit Yisrael, agala v'yizman karim. Amen. יהי שמי רבה מברך עלם ולפי החיה. יתברך, ישתבח, יתפאר, יתרומם, יתעשה, ויתנדר, יתעלה, ויתחלה, שמי ורשע, לעילם כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבתה ונחמתה, דמיינה ורחמה ורוח. יהי שמי רבה מישראל, כל ישראל עושה שלום הוא יעשה שלום עלינו כל ישראל אמן.
Thank you, Rabbi Brian. May sit down. Addressing last year's commemoration, Iraqi politician and former member of parliament, Mital al-Arusi, who advocates for an Iraqi-US-Israeli alliance, called the Farhud a very black day in Iraqi history, casting a shadow over 2,500 years of good relations between Iraqi Jews, Christians, Arabs, and Kurds. He too found the Farhud comparable with October 7th, adding his hope that we can focus more on the Farhud to show the dangers if we give the new, as he put it, Iran-backed Arab Muslim fascists free rein to do what they have done in Gaza, Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, and elsewhere. Earlier this month, President Isaac Herzog hosted an event at his residence in Jerusalem, marking 85 years since the Farhud. He warned of continuing anti-Semitism around the world. 85 years have passed since those harrowing events, yet the waves of anti-Semitic hatred continue to rise and even to intensify, threatening the safety of Jews across the world. We are witnessing mounting anti-Semitic attacks, including in democratic countries and even among longtime friends of the State of Israel. The spirit of the Farhud is not just limited to Baghdad in 1941. It is alive today, sadly, and this is why it's so important to do this commemoration, and why it's so important to work together across peoples and across the political aisle to stand against the scourge of baseless hatred. It is important to preserve the memory of both the Farhud and the Holocaust when we give voice to what our sisters and brothers in Iraq endured 85 years ago, with witnesses to those terrible days here among us, and when we pass on the memory of the dreadful Holocaust that consumed a third of our people. We remind the world again and again of the dangers contained in anti-Semitic incitement and of where that hatred has led us in the past. The more we persist in this work, warning, cautioning, and fighting, the more we will be able to halt it, inshallah. I may as well invite you all now to Shin DC's 9th Annual Congressional Holocaust Commemoration, January 2027. Mark your calendars now. So keep connecting with Sephardic Heritage International, Shin DC. Shin is a pluralistic nonprofit organization that builds intercultural bridges of an understanding while raising awareness of Sephardic and other unrepresented Jewish heritages through a focus on celebrating Sephardic and other underrepresented Jewish heritages and their potential for cross-cultural bridge building. Shin DC engages in cultural diplomacy by bringing together diverse communities and working together with the diplomatic community and the U.S. Congress. So we've fulfilled a bit of our mission today. We thank you all for joining us this evening. Rabbi Brian is also Hazan, as I'm sure you're able to tell. Will now close us off with Star Spangled Banner and Hatikva.
So leaving us with gratitude for this great country that we're a part of, it's important to know that I was born here in Baltimore, Maryland. My father, Maurice Shamash, my mother, Ann Shamash. My father is from Baghdad, Iraq, and survived the Farhud. And to embody the kind of hope that is in Hatikva and the hope that is in Israel, that opened her doors to my father so he would have a safe place to be. There was a man who said, "This is my house," to the people who came to the door with guns and men who were ready to rape and pillage in my home. in my Father's home. So we join together with your strongest voices for that star-spangled banner.
Oh, say, can you see my long-term light was around me there, and the twilight's asleep, whose rush stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight, o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streamed, and the rockets rattled, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, sing us that star-spangled banner yet wave, o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave. Oh, Lord, Valena, Benima, Nefeshemuni, Omina, Urmate Biza, Kadima, Ailexia, Sophia. Oh, Nata, Tivatenu, Ativa, Bachnotavali, Lira Tamposhi, Benhanse, Ebesia, Yerushalayim. Lira Tamposhi, Benhanse, Ebesia, Yerushalayim. See you in Israel. We especially want to thank Ephraim for all of his tremendous organization. Treats to making sure everyone would be in the right places. May we go Mikhail El Chayil from strength to strength.
Sure. I generally keep
Excuse me.
You take me.
Yeah, 627. Yeah. To see how like
It's good. It's good.
yeah. In the next people coming from all over. And then right now, 617. On Monday, I'm pretty involved in antisemitic, so it's not my job, by the way. I was looking forward to all the best.
I love hearing the day from Yemen.
Hi, are these yours?
My phone in my pocket.
Can I introduce you to my good friend, Scott?
Thank you.
Also, in this context, grandfather,
Wow, it's exciting. He's here.
Wait, don't take a picture of that. I'll find it.
We talked to Mark, and there was a small quota that
How you want me? I'm out of then I got it.
Okay, where are you going? Alright, that's you get paid for different what were you doing? Maurice, like,
She got David next to you. Bye, Maurice. And. See you. Farley? The worst is there's a very different